What do you regularly buy that you feel guilty about? Steam games I know I won't have time to play. Well, I'm an alcoholic, so probably alcohol. McDonald's for lunch. Books I never read. Or dash. It is such a waste of money, but I used to make coffee about half the time and buy it from a coffee stand about half this year has been extremely difficult, and I buy coffee nearly every day on my way to work. It's like $5 a day. I need to stop. Ubers every day, cocaine, veggies I throw away. Bread. I can't get through a whole loaf by myself. Bottled water. I know it's bad for the environment, and the markup is outrageous, but I am terrible with remembering and taking care of reusable water bottles. Crackers. Vodka usually, but I'm 10 days sober, so both my conscience and wallet have been feeling a bit better. Paper towels. I know I'm not helping limiting my carbon footprint, but they are so damn convenient. Chocolate. Iced coffee. I regularly buy too much ice cream, and I definitely feel guilty about it every time. I know it's bad for my health, but it's just so delicious. You became president. What are your first actions? Term limits, consecutive term limits, age restriction, and make it so all members of political houses can't be involved with stock market. Edit. Good Lord. Yes, I know the president can't do this without it being stricken down at every level. Order a pizza and have all the secret UFO files sent to me. Have a water slide built from the top of the Washington Monument to the White House. Overhaul the healthcare system. People winding up in heavy debt over this should not happen. You can become the victim of a crime or accident. Why have to go through a bad financial aftermath also? Sure, you can sue in some of these cases. Winning is another story and can take a long time. Many judgments never get satisfied also. Any politician must now wear a NASCAR-style racing suit, bearing logos of any lobby they've accepted any money from, so it is clear as day just exactly who they are working for. Make restaurants actually pay their ducking employees so we can do away with this stupid tipping stick once and for all. I don't even know where to start. I mean, firstly, end the war on drugs. Next, we need to find a way to remove profit as a motive from our healthcare system and our pharmaceutical industries. Completely rework our education system from pre-K to college. I cannot cost a fortune to become a well-educated/trained American. We need to get to work on antitrust. America cannot call themselves capitalist and only have 3 grocery store chains in the country and 4 meat packers. This is oligarchy and monopoly. We need to start making things here and paying our workers enough to live decent lives. Tapping down military spending and overtaxing the people who make billions instead of everyone else. Find a better candidate for the position. Hire Monica Lewinsky. I see a lot of people don't realize that presidential powers are limited, as they should be. Or just war. Don't really know against who or what. Just war. I mean, they are going to figure out I'm totally insane sooner or later, so might as well play my hand as soon as possible. Make it illegal for radio stations to play police siren sounds or songs with sirens. Nothing irritates me more than that. Kill the Patriot Act. Gov shouldn't involve themselves in businesses and people's lives. What is the most human and undog-like name you could name a dog? Keith, Michael, David, Mohammed, a pug named Jonathan, Human, Dander, Jeffrey, Ellen, LaQuisha, John, Steve, Kevin, Fred. Why are almost all the answers men's names? Is that weird to anyone else? So there's now 5 Mission Impossible movies. At what point are people going to figure out that these missions are actually possible? Mission unlikely? Mission improbable? Was it you who asked this exact question last week? Or are you furthering this topic? https://www.reddit.com/r/showerthoughts/comments/fortinisky/ considering the number of Mission Impossible / Atom source equals share and Atom medium equals Android app and Atom name equals Androids and Atom term equals 1 and Atom content equals 1 asterisk. Oh, no, it wasn't you. But is something you are convinced people do or pretend to like to seem more sophisticated? Ask long-winded questions during lectures /etc. that they either don't really care about or already know the answer to look intelligent. Luxury brands. Some patterns are so ugly like the Gucci one. The designs are so weird. 3-hour-long church services. Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount in like 5 minutes. Get over your ego, pastor. It is to my belief that many members of our worldwide civilization prefer to elongate the complexity of their lexicon in order to impress a higher degree of intellectual sophistication than one may conclude otherwise. Eat Snickers with a knife and fork. Talking about the colleges they could have gone to or been admitted to if they had went to go there or some unforeseen calamity hadn't hobbled their chances. Like, I totally had the grades and the perfect record to get into Harvard, but I decided not to apply because Ball State U had a much better aquatic exercise science program, which is what I was into at the time. Applying with, yeah, I know to a very piece of information. If you have someone like that around you, I'd beg you to tell them a made-up fact, and trust me, they at Solitelli will say that they knew about it. People who say I when me is grammatically correct. For me, some of the higher-end wines. Wine. Everyone's a sommelier now. The wine snobbiness is getting out of hand. Repeat the same stick in English in India, it's a big deal. I am unfamiliar with the foibles of the poor people. I will consult with my CPA, Charles Mack Moneybags Roman 4, and see if he can make a good recommendation. What movie/show made you think WTF did I just watch? Sorry to bother you. That movie wasn't horsing around, lol. Requiem for a Dream. Tusk. I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show when I was around 12 years old, and I thought it was the silliest, dumbest, and oddest thing I had ever seen. After 13 years, I found myself as Eddie in a Shadowcast play. It was fantastic. That Jennifer Lawrence starring film, Mother, End of Evangelion, Old Boy, the Korean one, Swiss Army Man, Slice. If anyone remembers that movie. It was seriously ducked up. Annihilation with Natalie Portman. Seriously loved this movie, but it was a complete mind duck. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That ending got me so bad. I was dying laughing at how wild the movie was. Face rolling. Mulholland Drive. 100% Midsummer edit. Haha, thanks for the silver. When I turned 14, I watched Sausage Party with my mother. It felt strange. Twin Peaks. From start through all the shows, movies, and reunion. The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Watched this movie at the theater with my ex-wife back when it was first released. When the credits began to roll, we both sat there for literally 2 minutes, unable to say anything. The first thing I managed to say was, ooh, Aki. It's a pretty good movie, but it leaves you feeling totally weirded out, confused, and disturbed. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Videodrome. What screams I'm and dummy? Not cleaning up after yourself in public places because otherwise the custodians wouldn't have jobs. Parrot if you train it properly. Listening to anything out loud on your phone in a restaurant. Parking your Ford F-150 diagonally across 2 parking spots. Referring to oneself as alpha. Dennis Leary in the mid-1990s. Bullying your kids in public. Trashy AF. Truck nuts. Parking in the fire lane. Drivers hauling ass cutting in and out of traffic with complete disregard for the safety of others around them on the road. Excuse me, duck my life/sarcasm. Taking up multiple parking spaces. Rolling coal on pedestrians. People who let their kids make a mess in a restaurant and make no attempt to clean it up. Talking loudly on your phone in public. The guy who flips you off as he endangers everyone on the interstate. Not re-racking your weights. What's hard for you to resist if you see it on a restaurant menu? Calamari. Tiramisu. Reuben. People of Reddit who have been abducted by aliens. What's your story? I was abducted outside my cousin's wedding reception. It's all very hazy. There were 2 of them, and they carried these powerful hand torches they kept shining in my face. They could speak a rudimentary form of English. They kept asking questions about how much I had been drinking. I presume because Earth is a water planet, they had questions about what we drank. Contrary to popular belief about anal probes, one of the aliens kept trying to make me put my pants in, not take them off, but I couldn't find my pants just then. The other alien who seemed to be in charge kept talking about disturbing the other wedding guests, and he tried to abduct my champagne bottle. Their spacecraft had a lot of bright lights on it, mostly red and blue. They took me to their mothership and put me in a holding area with some other humans they had also abducted that day. The next thing I know, it was morning and I was standing on the pavement downtown outside the police station. I was very fuzzy-headed, but physically unharmed. The whole experience gave me a terrible headache. Then I threw up on the bus. I suggest trying again with the serious tag. It took me in the middle of the night. I was out feeding the cattle under the moonlight, and then a big light came over me. Next thing I knew, I was driving down the road talking to what I later realized was my father. The person whose body I am now in's father. He made a joke about the time being slow, and he had seen an episode of X-Files that mentioned that time reverses when aliens abduct so they can drop you off at the same time as they picked you up. Except I think they mixed something up because I am not in the same body I left in. I still remember my whole life before, but I am 18 years younger in this body, so I don't really mind. But a few years after the incident, I went to see if the farm I once lived on was still there, but it took me a while to get there without suspicion. It's gone. Like it never stood. Maybe it was all just a dream. Sadly, I live in Europe. They only visit USA. They just wanted someone to explain the rules of American football. But I've never watched it and think it Chris off Acme for wasting their time. After the standard issue butt stuff, they beamed me back, but it took like 3 hours to walk home. They were gray with big fat eyes, little mouths. They just stared while I peed. I don't think I was dealing with the top brass. I woke up, I had to pee like a camel. So, I started peeing and one of the gray aliens slapped the wall and pointed at the bowl. So I got the hint. I kind of duck walked over the bowl, peed in it. I had the shirt I came in with, but my pants were gone. So my cuckoo was out. It's full Porky Pig in a drafty dome. I'm starting phase 2, which is me sitting on a stool while 40 gray aliens take turns gently batting my knockers. They were real respectful about it. They were in a line, and then one by one, they step up, slap a knocker, and then go to the end of line and wait for another turn. It didn't hurt. It felt super off the books. I swear to God, there was one gray alien by a door just kind of peeking in and out. I think he was a lookout. Look, it's not one of my worst Wednesday nights. My grand exit was out of what was basically like a big airplane toilet, okay? I dropped down 7 feet on the roof of a Long John Silver's. They threw out my pants separately. They missed the roof. My slacks landed on a freaking pine tree 30 feet away. So I had to just chill up there with my damn cuckoo hanging till the place opened up. Okay, if no one is going to take this seriously, I guess I'll share my story. I don't expect anyone to believe me. I've tried telling this to several of my friends and once to my dad, but they always thought I was just joking around or something. I wish I was. It was 2009. I was 13. I was staying up late on the family computer on a Friday night, playing some flash game or something. I remember my mom had just gone to bed 10 minutes prior. I vividly remember typing in half the URL to Addicting Games when I heard it. This weird silence. It's hard to explain, but all sound disappeared except for the sounds of my fingers on the keys. No crickets outside, no wind, not even the sounds of my loud computer in the room. I stopped and sat there for a second wondering if there was something wrong with me. I remember worrying I was having a stroke or something. Then I was there. This huge space. Pitch black. I could barely make out the edges of the room, but it was vaguely metallic. It was freezing. It took me a couple minutes, just laying there for it, to sink in what was happening, but I was floating in this giant room staring up at where the ceiling should be. There were no lights anywhere, but somehow the small area I was hovering in was illuminated. I remember kind of looking around and taking it all in a sort of fugue state until sound came back, only now there was this strange hum that was sort of going up and down in pitch slowly, kind of like a motor, but softer and more harmonic or something. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was like there were multiple layers stacked like a chord rising up and down in this weird dissonance that made me really uneasy. When I snapped out of it, I took this huge breath and my adrenaline kicked in. I tried moving, but I could only move my head. My clothes were still on, but I was just floating there, head whipping around trying to figure out what the duck was going on. I was fully awake, possibly more awake than I've ever been since. I can't tell you how intense the fear was. Then this sound of breathing came from behind me, and what sounded like heavy, hard footsteps on a metal surface. Loud, deep exhales with almost this sort of vibration to them. I turned my head as best I could to try and see, but it was coming from beyond the light. My heart was beating so ducking hard I thought I was going to die. I started to see a figure emerging slowly at first. My brain was having trouble registering it. It wasn't human. It was big. As it approached the light, I started to make out the features. It was a horse. This ducking brown horse with black hair slowly walked into the light and past me. I remember feeling the heat from its body as it did. It was so close. Then it went to what looked like a door at the edge of the room closest to my feet, just where the light was starting to fall off again, and it stood up. I heard a sort of zipper-like sound, and all of a sudden the horse collapses, like skin to the ground, revealing a small humanoid figure. It turns around and looks at me with huge black eyes, then just walks out the door. Before I could process any of this, there was suddenly a presence beside me, and I turned my head just in time to see another humanoid thing putting this ball with lights on it over my face. Then I woke up, but I didn't wake up in my bed. I was outside my house, a couple kilometers away. My clothes were a little ripped and dirty, and I had this awful headache. I slowly got up and looked around. I was down this dirt road near my house. We lived in the countryside, and just outside the driveway of one of our neighbors. When I realized where I was, I just walked back to my house, took an Advil, and went to bed. At the time, I just wanted the night to be over, and I had no idea what happened. But as time has gone on, I know for a fact that what I experienced was real. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't sleep paralysis or sleepwalking or that thing Mike Birbiglia has. It was so incredibly real. I didn't tell anyone about it for a long time. Years. And any time I see a horse on someone's farm or whatever, I think about that night. I think about telling them. But what would they say? I'll start. Not sure if this was a dream or not, but I remember being in some kind craft facing towards one of the walls. I felt a presence behind me and was so scared I couldn't move at all. Then, out of nowhere, I suddenly felt completely at ease. To my left, out of the corner of my eye, I could see a big being that almost looked like a large tardigrade behind some kind of control panel. I turned to see another being. Can't really remember what this one looked like, but I remember asking if I could ask some questions. I then received a reply which came from within my own head. And that's all I remember.